Hey, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Amanda.
And this is A Nefarious Nightmare, now officially partnered with Darkcast Network.
We cover true crime and the paranormal. We raise awareness about the senseless acts committed against victims. We won't go easy on the offenders, but show serious empathy to the victims.
And sometimes we dive into some weird topics outside of true crime, like the paranormal or even conspiracy theories.
Our listeners are definitely the best, and we are their biggest fans.
So join us. Come on in. All are welcome. Let's dive into these cases. You can find us on any podcast platform and on YouTube. Be sure to find us, hit subscribe, and share us with your friends.
We do have great life advice, such as don't be a Richard.
Yes, and wear deodorant. We don't want to smell you.
But all are welcome to A Nefarious Nightmare.
Seriously Sinister discusses true petty crimes that may be disturbing to some.
Or it could be easy listening to all of you psychopaths out there.
Names and places have been changed to protect the hosts legally.
Listener discretion is not advised. Sinister.
Welcome to Seriously Sinister, the long-distance relationship with your imaginary friend who recently moved away. This is Trevin.
And I'm Amanda. Yeah, I feel like we're like a long-distance friend to someone, right?
Yeah, even imaginary people.
That's the best. So what's dreadful for you this week, Trevin?
So this week, my house has been making some noises.
Oh, God.
Actually, let me tell you, it's been making noises for quite a while.
Oh.
To be exact. On random mornings, when I'm taking a shower or getting ready for work, it sounds like a woodpecker is pecking on my house.
Oh.
It's like, brrr. But there's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no consistency to it. It happened for 1 week. It happened multiple times in the morning. And I would say, do you hear that? And then they'd be like, yeah. And then I'd be running late for work because that's just who I am. And I would kind of stop what I was doing and walk around the house, see if I can find where it's at. And then eventually I would say, there's probably neighbors. One of these really close houses are working on something.
Oh.
Because it sounds like a woodpecker, or like when you're screwing something in and like the screw hits its point and you just hear the thing go brrr on in the screw.
Yeah.
So, man words. I was going to say screw gun. I know that's not right. I just can't think of it off the top of my head right now.
Screw gun.
So I heard it all the time, and it was only in the mornings, and I never heard it any other times. If it was during the evening, I would just walk around the house to see if I could find it. Hadn't heard it in weeks. And then yesterday, got out of the shower, and I heard it again. And it almost feels like my house is gaslighting me. And it kind of makes me think, what if Emily's doing this and telling me she doesn't notice it? You understand where the term gaslighting came from, right?
No, not really. I mean, I know what the term means, but...
So gaslighting was originally I believe it was a play, and then it became like an old movie.
Oh.
But it was literally just about this man and a woman, and of course it's old, so it's all kind of about husband can kind of get his wife put away for being crazy pretty easily.
Oh, shit.
And so what he would do is the little gas that ran the little lamps in the house, he would slowly turn them down a little bit. And he would do it little by little, and she would say, oh my heavens, it's getting a little darker in here. And he's like, no, it's not. It's perfectly bright.
Oh.
And then as it would go...
So it was a literal gaslighting situation.
So he would crank it down till it was like almost dark in there, and she'd say, I really can't see. And he's like, I see just fine. Until eventually she goes crazy, and then it's like, hey, police, I've got another one of those females. And then they did away with her or whatever. I don't remember how it ends.
Wow.
But anyway, that's where the term came from, because it was, you're lying to somebody and making them feel crazy just to get whatever you want. And then the term was just taken from the act of literally this guy turning his gas light down.
Wow.
So anyway, I feel like my house is gaslighting me with this noise. And when I'm ready for it this weekend, it won't do it, guarantee it. I did ask some guys at work, some men, and they said that it could be a water thing. They said, is water related to this? And I said, yeah, which I need to talk to Emily's dad on it. But they said sometimes air gets in the lines, and every random time, sometimes it'll just be like, it'll vibrate or something.
Oh.
I don't know. Listeners, you got any other ideas? I'll talk to Emily's dad before this comes out, probably.
You're sure it's not just a woodpecker?
And I've wondered that too. Like, I was almost like, is there a woodpecker flying away and then coming back and just on my house? I don't know.
Yeah. Wow. Well, yeah, I think that you may be in an emotional, what is it called? An emotional abusive relationship with your house.
Yeah, I think so.
So sorry, Trevin. That's horrible.
I mean, I still love it. It can do whatever it wants to me.
Okay. Well, there's that. Well, I do have a dreadful dilemma as well. So you've known me for years. My dreadful dilemma, Trevin, is that I feel like I used to be fun and wild and free, you know?
Oh, no.
And maybe even more wild than the majority of our friends. I mean, I was kind of that gal that would go out on the town with literal zero fear in my soul and would just go out and do the damn thing.
I think one of the first times I ever went out with you, you were like drinking and we were walking to our cars and you were just like, hey guys, look, I'm a model. And you just like climbed on the hood of someone else's car and just whipped it back and looked at us. And Jordan was like, babe, get the fuck off that car.
Well, apparently it was like a really nice car too. I don't know much about cars, so I didn't really care. But apparently it was a really nice one. He was just like, get down. But now I feel like all my friends are the wild ones and they all have cool life updates and stories. And I'm over here just like, oh, guys, I've been starting to organize my mail and open it more. And have you seen this Disney movie?
I cry to a medium show.
Right. Like, I'm just such a mom now. So that's really like my lighthearted part of the dreadful dilemma. But I did, on a tiny bit more of a serious note, just wanted to say that, as we talked about last week, end of pregnancy is really hard. And this isn't just for pregnant people, but I've just been feeling like physically and emotionally, I'm just being so half-assed in every category in my life. I can't play with my kid how I want to. I'm too tired to like do fun things with Jordan. You know, just every category. I feel like I'm, you know, a failure, which I had like an emotional breakdown the other day.
Oh, I could see that.
Yeah, but I'm feeling better now. And I'm choosing to be easier on myself and be like, dude, you really are trying to spread yourself out and get everything done. Mm-hmm. But just if there's anyone else out there that feels that way, I just wanted to share that because I know we're like lighthearted and fun and we like to have fun, but we all have our problems. And if anyone else is feeling like that, so am I.
Yeah, I mean, we are lighthearted, but we'll never stop being honest.
Yeah. So it's just been a really weird, hard time for me. I just think I have a lot of emotions and hormones and things happening, but I just want anyone else that's feeling low or feeling like you're not good enough right now that it's going to be all right. And there's different phases in life. Sometimes things are crazy. Sometimes things are calm. Sometimes things are good and sometimes they're bad. And it's all going to be okay.
Yeah, there are ebbs and flows. Last year, in the thick of trying to build this show, I was houseless and I was eating like shit and I was unhappy about it, but I just had to keep rolling with the punches.
Yeah.
And now I'm in a place where I feel hope and strength and everything is just feeling good. So we just have our phases and it really sucks to say like, oh, I'm in sort of a transitional phase, but I don't think there's any avoiding it.
Yeah.
We always are going to have them.
It's just life. Just life. You can't escape it.
Yeah, you just get better.
Better at dealing with it.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, man. So we are going to be doing
Top 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Top 5.
And I will be going first. So this week, I was racking my brain thinking of what to do. And I thought, you know, some men, especially, are a little afraid to go in the kitchen.
Yes, I've heard this.
And so I wanted to maybe scare them a little more by talking about the 5 most dangerous gadgets in the kitchen.
Ooh, I'm ready.
Okay, so I am coming at you live from ampproject.org, but there are logos for the Bravo TV network all over it, so I'm not sure if Bravo owns this website or what.
I love Bravo.
I bet you do. So, number 5, we've got the cheese grater.
Ooh.
This gadget is in just about every household, but don't be fooled. Their teeth are sharp. It's easy to accidentally scrape your hand raw or take off a fingernail with this baby, especially when you're working on that last nub of cheese.
Ooh.
Number 4, we've got the immersion blender. Sure, there's a lot of accidents that come with blenders and not handling them properly, but sometimes just storing them in the sink or storing them in the cabinet and you stick your hand in there, those blades are sharp as well.
Eek!
Number 3, something that I feel like only rich people deal with, unless I'm just super low class. An oyster knife.
No. No, you are not low class, Trevin.
Unlike a chef's knife or paring knife, this knife, used for opening oysters, doesn't have a sharp blade, and the pointed end isn't extremely sharp either. So what's the problem, you may ask?
Yeah.
When you're shucking an oyster, you're holding the bivalve at one hand and prying the shell open with the other. If the knife slips, it's very common for novices to stab themselves. Wear an oyster shucking glove specifically designed to protect yourself.
This website thinks we are fancy and we are not.
Yes.
I do love oysters though, but like
I like fried ones.
I've never prepared them at home.
Yeah, let me just sip my Chardonnay and shuck my oyster. Number 2 is the mandolin or mandoline. I don't know how that's said. It's like the wooden panel thing. Sometimes they're plastic and they have the blade inside of them. So you just like rub your food across the platform and there's a blade. Here's a picture.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I definitely don't have one of those either. Do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
This is just a lot like the grater. You know, you're just going across and cutting your stuff up and you get down to the end and they say this one's very bad.
Yeah, no, just looking at that image, it's like, do you know how easily you could just cut your finger?
Yeah, don't go too quick.
Ooh.
And this one's a very interesting one, but the number 1, do you have a guess? And it's not a knife. It's not something as basic as knife.
Okay. Potato peeler?
No, but man, I get those a lot.
Yeah.
Whipped cream dispenser.
The hell?
Again, this is some fancy gourmet shit.
Like you're not talking about
I'm not talking about like a can.
Okay. Then I'm not familiar.
Bizarrely, this kitchen tool has been responsible for multiple injuries, including broken teeth, fractures, and even one death.
What?
Popular French fitness blogger Rebecca Berger just passed away after one of these dispensers exploded, hitting her in the chest and causing her heart attack. The problem lies with defective siphons that aren't designed to withstand the gas pressure, causing them to explode. They say dispensers made after 2015 appear to be safe, so if you have an older model at home, it's time to upgrade, people.
Whoa. Do you have a picture of that one as well?
I have a picture of a dismantled one, but
weird.
You've never seen those where they like mix their own and then there's that little handle and they just kind of squeeze it and it just...
No. I'm not fancy at all.
Here, I'll find a bit.
Oh, I guess I have seen them at like restaurants.
Yeah, like places like Cheesecake Factory would have them.
Right.
Yeah, and I thought I would just tell a little story that I had with a kitchen gadget once.
Oh God, what?
When I was a kid, it was like a newer invention or whatever, but they made those knives that were made for cutting apples, but you couldn't cut yourself with them. Are you aware of these? They're kind of rounded and they have like teeth on them, but they're all rounded teeth that it's easy to cut through an apple and
weird.
And
no, I mean I know like the round thing that's like a circle and you cut an apple, but I don't know.
No, this looks like a little knife with teeth.
Weird.
My mom bought one and was just like, "Oh, isn't this neat? So you can use it, young man." And which she doesn't talk like that, but I was probably like 13 or something, and I thought, interesting. I wasn't really paying attention to my mom, you know, kind of half-ass listening, half-ass taking in what she said. And so Luke came over and stayed the night, and we were like having a late night snack or whatever. And I pulled open our drawer and I found a knife, and I was like, oh, Luke, have you ever heard of this? This is one of those non-cutting knives. And this is still a joke that we laugh about this all the time. And I was like, yeah, watch this. And I put this knife to my thumb and I pressed down and I just slid it across my thumb really hard. Little did I know that we also had a small knife that looked very similar in handle, but it wasn't rigid. And I just took a straight blade and went across my thumb really hard. And I looked down and blood just started pouring out. I'm like, ah! And so we went and cleaned it up. And then a little bit later, I was like, man, I should have listened to my mom and paid attention when she pointed out which knife it was.
Ooh,
And so
how old were you?
I was probably like 13.
Oh my God.
And Luke will still to this day go, is this one of those non-cutting knives? And I'm like, no.
Like, you made such a fool out of yourself and harmed yourself. That's a lose-lose.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like I've always had a very morbid and dark way of thinking. It's just a good thing that I didn't put that blade somewhere else to make a joke.
God, yeah, you're like, watch this, and you hold it up to your neck.
Yeah.
Jesus, Trevin.
So I think about that. It was a close call. Closer than it probably seemed.
That made me cringe. I don't like it. Oh my God. Well, I also have a top 5 for you. This one's kind of random as well.
I like it random.
But I was just thinking of something that fascinated me, and this randomly came into my head and I Googled it and there is a list about it. So
I love when that comes together.
yeah, I wanted to know the top 5 lowest points on Earth. So I used a website called wanderwisdom.com, and they have such good information on this website. So like, not only do they have a chart and it's listed out like where it is and how many feet below sea level it is and how many meters below sea level it is, but it also has a brief description of each place. I don't know, just the idea of being like under sea level and like the deepest depths of the lowest parts on Earth fascinated me. So here we go. Number 5 is the Caspian Depression, and it's in Kazakhstan. I don't know if I said that correctly. Kaza.
Isn't it Kazakhstan?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Khstan. There you go, Trevin. Thank you so much.
I've heard it in spy movies.
Oh, okay. So it is 433 feet below sea level. So this is number 5. It gets extremely lower as we keep going. It's a salt lake and it has no natural outflow to it at all. So that's kind of weird. All right. Number 4 is Qattara Depression in Egypt. It's 436 feet below sea level, so not too much lower than the 5th one. So something cool about this one is that, and most of these low depressions are very much desert-like landscapes. So this one is one of those that's very dry, but it has salt pans, dunes, and bizarre winded, eroded rocks in this one.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, I'm going to show you a picture. It almost looks like people have built houses around them and stuff now, but like there's rocks just cut out from the wind and stuff. It's really weird. Number 3 is the Turpin Depression, and that is in China. It's 505 feet below sea level. Within this depression, there are Buddha caves, there are ruins, and there are ancient tombs in this one.
Ooh.
So this one's pretty cool. I mean, they're all fascinating for different reasons, but this one has like a lot of historical stuff in it. Number 2 is Lake Assal in Djibouti.
Djibouti?
Yeah, Djibouti. And it is...
That's usually what I say to Maple all the time. I say, Djibouti?
I love saying that place. It's so fun. It is 509 feet below sea level. It's a lake at the bottom of a crater. And National Geographic described it as the cruelest place on Earth.
Cruelest.
So basically why they said that is that it has extremely high temperatures, volcanic landscapes, and it's a desert, which is really common on Earth's lowest points, but just the really extreme temperatures. And because this is the second lowest place on Earth, they just said it's a very unpleasant place to be.
I can imagine.
And then number 1, can you guess where you think the number 1 lowest place is?
what is it? Is it the Marianas Trench or whatever?
So it is the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee in Israel, Jordan.
Oh.
So the Dead Sea is the one that's even more, but they're kind of connected. The Sea of Galilee is 702 feet below sea level. The Dead Sea is 1,388 feet below sea level.
Damn.
Isn't that just weird?
It's so low.
I'm just thinking of sea level and what that means and like, why? Why? This was the weird fact about these two. They give two of them because they are connected and they both not far from each other. And also they're both the top lowest places in the earth. But the two of these, the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee, are completely opposite from each other, but they're both the lowest points on Earth, so it's really weird. The Dead Sea is a stark, forbidding landscape, seemingly barren of life, whereas the Sea of Galilee is life-giving with leafy shores and occupied by dozens of resorts and hotels with fertile groves of fruit and orchards. Isn't that weird?
I want to go to that resort and just see if being that low feels different.
Yeah, like I know that high altitude can give you altitude sickness or whatever, but can lowness cause you some pain as well?
I feel like it's got to do something.
It's got to do something to you. I don't know, but I just found those to be really fascinating. The one in the U.S. is number 7 on the list, and it's called Death Valley in California.
Okay, I've heard of that for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so those are the lowest places on Earth, guys. So if you're feeling low, just imagine all the people in these dark, deep, creepy crevices.
Did you purposely do that because you were feeling low?
Honest to God, no. But maybe subconsciously. I didn't logically and like knowingly do that, but maybe so.
Yeah, I was going to make a joke and say that's still nowhere near as low as you feel after you finish 6 feet under. But then I thought, well, you actually talked about being low there, so.
Yeah.
Good connection.
Yeah. So there we go. We'll just pretend there's a connection, but maybe I did. I don't know.
Well, all right. It is that magical time. It's story time.
Woohoo!
And I am going first.
Nice.
This week, I felt a little bit like Christian Bale because I was feeling newsy. You don't get that reference.
I don't think so, no.
When Christian Bale was a kid, he was in the movie Newsies.
Oh! Okay.
So I'm just doing another one from the news. And it's something that I think we can all hope for ourselves. Maybe we can't relate to it, but deep down we wish we could.
Okay. I'm into it.
So here we go. Have you ever hit the jackpot? Like you weren't expecting it, but one day, a great fortune came your way? And I don't mean this in terms of just money. We can find riches in many things.
Let's get you changed. My wedding ring!
Maybe Channing Tatum retweeted your review of Magic Mike 2. You ordered a 6-piece nuggets and found 7. Or out of everyone at the fundraiser, you guessed the correct amount of beans in the jar. These are situations that will fill you with a rush of dopamine and leave you saying to yourself, oh, what luck. And luck can be a silly thing. Completely up to chance, everything in life we do is a roll of the die. Just waking up and stepping outside of your front door, you are literally opening the door to opportunity. As you breathe in your first breath of the outside air, you very well could look down and find a $20 bill.
Oh, fuck yeah!
And the moments don't stop there. As the day progresses, more and more of these occurrences can present themselves. Maybe the coworker who is battling you for the new promotion, Marty, will accidentally send a nude to your boss, allowing you a direct path to the job of your dreams.
You got the job. Marty just didn't measure up.
Or you could simply go grocery shopping on a Wednesday evening and find a front row parking spot with your name on it. When these moments present themselves, we can feel like we are on top of the world. Although for some of us, these are considered to be rare, we never forget them and we'll bring them up in many casual conversations going forward.
Seriously, smell my ring.
Recently, I started dabbling a little bit into cryptocurrency. I had been seeing all of the luck people have been having with it, and the statistics don't lie. Some of these companies have skyrocketed up 1,000%, making countless amounts of people very wealthy. But as I type this, I really wonder why I decided to go this route with how this connects to me. I've lost over 60% of my investment, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. So, let's just get to the story. Today's tale is about a man who, unlike me with bullshit bitcoins, will come into a great amount of luck. And who knows? Maybe you will leave this episode feeling like there is hope around the corner for you too. Deputy Dan was a rookie on the force for the Marion County Police Department. Being part of a Floridian police department is any aspiring hero cop's dream. Every morning, he would look up to all of his framed Florida crime headlines, just wondering when his time was going to come.
Maybe today's the day.
He looked up to the greats, like the man who jumped into the alligator exhibit, the officers who got the meth user to bring in his product to get tested,
Here's that meth.
and the manhunt for the guy who quarantined in Disney. Dan knew that his time would eventually come. If he kept clocking in and protecting his fair state, Florida would eventually reward him. It was a day like any other. Deputy Dan patrolled the city and asked around for tips on any big crimes coming up.
Know of any crimes going on?
But there was nothing. Florida was the quietest it had ever been. Dan even considered placing an unmarked gun in a random woman's purse, just to give himself something to do.
Freeze, gun lady!
As he sat in his patrol car, scratching at a scratcher ticket, Dan was feeling hopeless. Wow, not a winner. What else is new? He sighed and said to himself, maybe I'll never get my big break. But just as Dan was about to pack it in for his shift, that's when a speeding car flew past him. The force of the car driving by blew the scratcher ticket and quarter right out of his hands. Excited to finally get some action, Dan put the car in gear and went on the chase. After the police cruiser began to gain on the car, they put on their blinker and pulled over. Wow, not even a chase, Dan thought to himself. The officer stepped out of his car and slowly approached the vehicle. Not even close enough to see the inside of the vehicle, one of his other senses took over. Smell. It's the green stuff, Dan said to himself, after getting a nose full of marijuana. Knowing that the street drug known as weed is a very dangerous drug, Dan kept his hand close to his gun as he approached the driver. A man in his mid-20s rolled down his window and looked at Deputy Dan quite guiltily. Dan surveyed the vehicle. He saw the scared man, many drug baggies, and a 7-month-old child. Without much of a conversation, Dan pulled the man out of the car and searched it.
Get out of the car, weed head!
In the car, Dan found 197 grams of meth, rock cocaine, 4 grams of heroin, and a small scale. Along with this, the man also had a small amount of marijuana and a large amount of cash on him. Hoping to have found his story to rest, Dan shook his head in disappointment and said, "Wow, that's it?" For the uninitiated, you may find this as a sizable bust. But you must remember that this is Florida we are talking about. You could pull over any car on the highway and find at least 30 grams of meth.
Do you have anything besides meth?
That didn't stop Dan from doing his job, though. He called CPS to get the child, and took the man, ID'd as Patreon Stokes, to jail. Leading the man into the station, he was greeted by his co-worker Steve. "Hey Dan, I saw you caught this guy with 197 grams of meth. Looks like you really hit the jackpot, ha ha ha." "Don't patronize me, Steve. You and I both know that I wish he had more," Dan yelled. Dan lined the man up in front of the camera and took his mugshot.
Say cheese.
And then began to go through his belongings. One baggie of marijuana, a Garfield keychain, and one punch card to Little Dick's Pizza Palace. "Wait, where's the money?" Dan questioned. "What do you mean?" said the recently arrested man. "You already took it, back at the car." Dan argued with the man, knowing that it is not protocol to take money until back at the station. He knew there was no way that he would have taken the money. But with a lack of evidence, there wasn't much more he could do. "We will find it later," Dan said to the man, as he began to walk him back towards his cell. Walking down the long, empty corridor, the sound of their footsteps was all the men could hear, until they were quickly interrupted by what sounded like a quarter hitting the ground. Dan stopped him and the man and checked to see if he had a hole in his pocket. He checked his left pocket and his right, but his pocket seemed to be perfectly intact. As Dan fished around in his pockets, he looked at his prisoner, who was sweating profusely and had a very uncomfortable look in his face. "Are you okay?" Dan asked. "Yeah, I'm fine. You've got important things to do. You better get me to jail," the man said, seemingly in a hurry. Dan took the man by the handcuffs and continued to walk. This time, he heard something else hit the ground. Dan stopped and looked back. There sat a crumpled up $20 bill. Trying to make sense of this, Dan told the man to go ahead and walk to the end of the hallway. As the man walked away, money began to pour from the back of his shorts. Dan could not believe his eyes. With his mouth agape, he watched the human slot machine continuously drop cash out of his anus with each step. As Dan was a very thorough deputy, he decided to perform a rectal search, just to make sure he wasn't leaving any money on the table. Or in the ass, depending on how you want to use the saying. Digging in and collecting piles of moist bills, Dan had recovered $1,090 from the man's prison wallet. Both the man and Dan began to shed tears. The man crying from having instruments of money retrieval up his butthole, while Dan realized he finally hit his jackpot. "Oh, what luck!" Dan cried out. In August of 2017, Patreon Stokes was pulled over for speeding, where he was found to be in possession of rock cocaine, 4 grams of heroin, a small scale, marijuana, a large amount of money, and 197 grams of methamphetamine. While booked in jail, the officers could not find the cash until he began to slowly lose it out of his butt while walking. Stokes was charged with trafficking methamphetamine, tracking heroin, possession of cocaine with the intent to sell, manufacture, or deliver, possession of marijuana, and possession of drug equipment. He was arrested and taken to the Marion County Jail. Once the $1,090 was recovered from his rectum, Stokes was additionally charged with smuggling contraband into a detention center. We've learned a lot about how luck can come up at the least expected times. We've learned a lot about the things that go on in Florida. And maybe more importantly, we have learned that we should always wash our money. For the legend of Patreon Stokes, the ass-crack smuggler, will live on forever in the annals of history.
That's just nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Well, I thought that the most disturbing part was that there was a 7-month-old in the car, which is still really up there.
Yeah, I had to brush past that and make sure that wasn't a big part of the story.
Right.
That's not funny.
No, but wow, quarters and bills and adding up to over $1,000 up the ass?
Mm-hmm.
I just can't even imagine what that feels like or how he did it or when did he have time to do it?
I think he did it when he was in the back of the police car.
What?
I'm guessing it was probably in his pockets, and they arrested him, put him in there, and with his hands cuffed behind him, he just somehow fished it out of his pockets and just shoved it up there.
Wow.
I will say for the story, I added the quarter part. I don't actually know if he put quarters up there. I just thought that would be more funny and uncomfortable.
Yeah. And it makes a good sound effect, clinking, hitting the floor.
You know I got one.
Oh my God. So it could have just been dollar bills, but we don't know for sure.
No.
But I feel like, I don't know, that's just desperation at its finest, I guess.
Yeah, what's your plan, really? You had so much drugs on you that you would have been in jail. I understand that you could have gotten out and then waited trial and then went back in.
Yeah.
But still, you would have most likely had to have excavated that money on your own and held it somewhere, kept it good until you could get out of jail again, which would maybe be hard to smuggle back out with you. I'm not saying that I, burn $100 bills to keep my house warm or anything, but $1,000 isn't that much compared to what extra that probably added to him. Right.
And also, from what I know of being in jail, you can't just bring cash in and use it.
No.
I mean, you have to get money put in to this account that you can buy things with and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, maybe he could have traded it in jail and gave it to somebody, but then they'd have the responsibility of holding on to it for all that time too. I just don't see, I don't know. I don't know what his plan was.
I don't either. It would have just, probably all that meth was probably worth way more. I mean, in the meth you could have actually done in jail. So I would have probably shoved that up my ass.
You can't do this to me, Trevin.
My bad.
Oh my God. But seriously, though, I guess he was able to keep the money on him and probably wasn't able to keep the meth on him. I don't know, but...
Well, it probably just wasn't in the back of the car when he went back there.
But you're right. That would have been way more valuable. And also, I thought for really big arrests like that, I thought they actually did always search your whole body, even your butthole.
I mean, they're not going to search your butthole on the side of the road.
Yeah, but once you get into jail, right? Maybe not.
I think you need to give them a reason.
Okay. And I'm wondering, please tell me, is there a specific instrument that they use?
That I don't know. I imagine gloves are part of it, but I don't know past that. I would like to think that there is in terms for my story.
I hope there is, just for the sake of everyone's hands and fingers. Oh my God. Well, that was a good one. Wow. So I am going to be doing a story from one of our most loyal listeners. We have given him shout outs in the past, and now I have a petty crime story from him to share. This story is from the one, the only, Steven, aka Vitamin Steve 83 on Instagram.
Vitamin Steve.
Well, you now have your own intro song. So he actually just healed up from a bad case of COVID, but he did recently send us a really sweet DM that I wanted to share before I read his story. He said, "Sorry this is late, just getting over a bad case of COVID. Congrats on your first year. It has been an amazing year for all of us fans, and huge credit goes to the two of you and the hard work you put into every episode. Look forward to another year of laughter and petty crimes."
Oh, yeah.
So thank you, Steven. I mean, I was scrolling back through our messages because I asked him some follow-up questions about his story.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly forgot just how far back it went with him and how he's really been there, honestly, very close to the beginning.
Yeah.
Or maybe it even was the beginning and he just didn't DM us until a little bit further in. But I was like, holy crap, Steve's been with us this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
We just love connecting with our listeners. It's really cool when we don't know somebody from an in-person situation and they've become such a loyal listener that they almost feel like a friend, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, I love this. I hope that I do his story justice. And here we go. There are many traits, qualities, and mannerisms we learn from our parental figures. Maybe you say embarrassing quotes and hawk loogies like your dad does.
Shit fire.
Or perhaps you have learned the best form of communication is to manipulate others with style and grace, just like your mom.
Are you sure I have to pay this speeding ticket?
I'm sure there are many great characteristics you've learned from these people as well. But we all know that even the individuals with the best parents still need therapy.
So what am I seeing you for today?
My parents love me too much.
This story that you are about to hear this week is about a young boy witnessing how his mother handled being thrown right in the middle of a petty crime, and how this event may have changed his life forever. Jeanette was a loving mother living in Ottawa, Ontario, and working hard as a caterer in 1988. If you asked her friends about her, they would say that she was a caring type and there for them to lend a helping hand. If you were struggling on moving day and about to drop a priceless box of breakable family heirlooms, Jeanette would magically appear to catch it all before it fell.
Oh, that was close.
If you had an important family birthday cake in the oven, Jeanette always seemed to call and remind you to take it out before it was burned.
Hello?
Check your cake, bitch.
Standing at 5'7" and 110 pounds, Jeanette loved animals, going to movies, reading, and swimming. She was quick with a joke, but could be tough when needed. Her main priority was her precious 5-year-old son, Stephen. He was a mischievous little boy who would hide from his mom in store clothing racks and get into their Halloween makeup at home, scaring his mom half to death.
I'm the ghost of Abraham Lincoln.
But it was hard to stay mad at Stephen, with his cute grin, short blonde hair, and pure blue eyes. The two of them had no idea what was coming their way. The duo lived in a typical residential neighborhood where the craziest action they ever got was an aggressively cheap neighbor at a yard sale.
Take $5 off the price of this chair because I know your ass touched it.
They felt safe there. On an evening just like any other, Jeanette tucked Stephen into bed with a song and a kiss. She left his room to go relax with a nice book when she saw lots of flashlight beams moving rapidly throughout her backyard. Jeanette stepped outside onto her cool patio to see what the hell was going on. Out of nowhere, a young guy popped out of the darkness. He had a slim build with long brown hair and a ponytail and a goatee. He was dressed in all black clothing and looked like a terrified teenager. With fear in the man's eyes and a breathlessness to his voice, he said, Please, you gotta help me. We robbed a pawn shop and the police are after us." Jeanette looked the young man up and down and realized how desperate he looked. Plus, she figured if things got weird, she could take him. She opened her back door and told the young fugitive to get in the house and hide.
Get in, quick.
Jeanette decided to harbor the fugitive in her dining room, since it had no windows, and told him to take a seat. With her best stern mom voice, she warned him that if he tried anything funny, he would wish the cops had him when she was through with him.
I ain't afraid to cut a man.
After she had threatened him, they both relaxed a bit. They sat at the dining room table, and the young man explained how he and 2 other friends had robbed a pawn shop. They were struggling financially and thought that this was a way to help their families out. He repeatedly told Jeanette how grateful he was for her help, as she occasionally would walk over to a window to see if the cops were still on the hunt for him. Call it motherly instinct, being a pleasant host, or harboring a fugitive 101. But as the strangers waited together, Jeanette decided to make the pair some warm tea. Just as the tea had been boiled, there was a loud pounding on her front door. She whipped her head towards the young man and told him to hide in her basement. Jeanette cleared her throat and put on her acting hat as she answered her front door to greet a police officer.
Hello.
The officer asked who was all in the home, as Jeanette reassured him it was just her and her young son. She tried not to seem suspicious, as she put on her concerned voice and asked the officer what was going on. As the man in uniform explained the situation, Jeanette realized that there were 2 cups of warm tea laid out right in his view. She knew that she wanted to wrap up the conversation quickly so that the officer didn't suspect her of having another person in her home or judge her for drinking so much caffeine this late at night.
Oh, you're a thirsty girl, ain't you?
Just when she thought she was in the clear, her 5-year-old son Stephen awoke and walked out of his bedroom. He stated that he had to go potty and opened the basement door to the nearest toilet. Jeanette held her breath as she pictured her baby boy running into the strange fugitive with a goatee in their basement and screaming at the top of his lungs.
Ah, a goatee!
However, a few minutes later, Stephen calmly walked back up the stairs with a grin on his face and said, "Good night, Mommy." As he returned to his bed, Jeanette's shoulders began to relax as she hurried the police officer on his way.
Time to go. Bye.
After the officer left, Jeanette ran to little Stephen's bedroom to make sure he was okay. With an ornery grin, Stephen whispered to his mom and said, "I'm not supposed to tell you, but your friend that you're playing hide and seek with is hiding in the basement." Stephen giggled and rolled over to go back to sleep. Jeanette then ran downstairs to confirm the story Stephen had told her. The fugitive explained that her son had seen him and that he gave them the hide-and-seek excuse to make sure he wasn't afraid. The 2 then drank their lukewarm tea in the basement until the coast was clear in the usually quiet neighborhood. The young fugitive slipped away back into the night, leaving behind his entire bag of stolen goods. It included some cash, a VCR, and other knickknacks. In the end, Jeanette and Stephen escaped their petty crime situation unharmed and with a few free items. But how did this event impact them afterwards? Perhaps Stephen witnessing his mother assisting a petty thief is what led him to listen to this very podcast. But we will never know for sure. One thing we do know now is that even the best moms, neighbors, and friends could be harboring a fugitive in their basement at this very moment.
Well, at least they got paid for it.
Right?
I mean, that's really nice. A lot of these kind of situations, you're just kind of lucky to get out of it, but she profited.
Right. I mean, back in the 80s, VCRs were very useful.
Mm-hmm.
I know in today's world that would seem kind of like a buzzkill, but getting cash, a VCR, and other knickknacks, I mean, hell.
And knickknacks were big in the 80s.
They were. Even in the 90s.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
early 90s, I feel like. But yeah. First of all, thank you to Stephen, but also thanks to his mom. Her real name is Jeanette.
Oh.
I got permission from both of them. I had him ask her if I could use their real names.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave me such good information. A big chunk of the story was truly written by him. I just added my own kind of flares here and there. Obviously, I don't know if, Jeanette called her friends just in the nick of time before their cakes burned, but she seems like the type.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, really, none of the story is really made up except for just a couple little descriptive details that I threw in here or there.
Yeah.
But what a weird and wild ride to be a 5-year-old and just to think, oh, I'm going downstairs to go potty. Stranger danger, and then this man with a goatee and dressed in all in black is like, oh, I'm just playing hide and seek with your mom, And for him to be so innocent and pure and be like, oh, okay, I won't tell her. And and he goes upstairs and the cop is still there. I'm just picturing how his mom probably felt in this situation, because she probably already felt weird having a stranger that just openly admitted to being a fugitive on the run in her house. But then, to picture, oh my God, my son just interacted with this guy, without me, as this policeman standing here. What a weird situation to find yourself in.
Yeah, and to even choose to help them is pretty crazy.
I know. And he even said the quote about, harboring a fugitive 101 and, motherly instinct and things, came from him. I wanted to, put those in just because I thought those were really good descriptions of what was going through her mind. But yeah, he's like, she blames either stupidity or motherly instinct for taking this guy in. She doesn't know which one it was, but he was so young and so afraid that she just, I don't know, she must have had a vibe about him, you know?
She felt bad probably.
And she threatened him as well. She was like, boy, if you try anything with me, I will end you.
Yeah, she's like, you see this rolling pin?
You see this cheese grater? Or whatever. You see this oyster knife?
Oh, yeah. Jeanette probably shucked some oysters.
I think Jeanette's fancy as hell, in my opinion, so she definitely had an oyster knife, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I just love that story. I thought it was just so funny. And from a kid's point of view, how they felt, from a mother's point of view, how they felt. It was just really fun to write.
No, I bet. I like that kind of stuff and getting to just have the fun with listener stories.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to take your job this week.
Oh, connection?
Yeah. I think you know what I'm going to say, right?
Maybe.
Hiding and concealing.
Oh.
Jeanette concealed the fugitive into her basement, and Patreon concealed the money in his body's basement.
Yes, I had a different connection, but it wasn't as good as that one. It was a really minuscule one.
Oh.
And I can't even remember what it was now, so thank God for you, Trevin.
Yeah. Both very different hiding places.
Yes, I would say that a house is, or more specifically a basement, is much better than being in a butthole, so.
Yeah, but I feel like Jeanette has more of I would imagine has more of a chance of somebody finding what she's hiding.
Right.
I don't know how many people go peeking into his butthole.
Yeah. Let's hope that's not a normal thing. Oh my God. Well, what a fun week. Everyone out there who is fancy, be careful in your kitchens. Anyone who's in a dark place, know that there's much lower and darker places in the world.
And some are healing, so just see how low you can go.
Yeah. So it's all fine, everybody. And we love you guys so much. And keep sending us your stories. Keep sending us your positive messages. Keep sending us your reviews. We love receiving all the love.
Yeah, if you're listening on Spotify right now, hit the back arrow of this episode window, go all the way to the top, and just hit the star. Give us 5.
Yeah.
If you got an Apple product, just look us up on Apple and give us 5 stars.
Yeah.
It's okay if you're lying. Just go 5.
You know what, though? I will say, with the amount of reviews that we have, I feel like it's still pretty damn impressive that it's still 5 out of 5.
Yeah, that's not a challenge anybody to change it.
Yeah. Please don't bring us down, because, wow, that would be, I'm going to knock on my head now for OCD purposes. But yeah, I just feel like, okay, I guess we're doing something right.
Yeah, I think we're doing great, and I'm glad that you all are enjoying it.
So just remember, no matter the crime, big or small, in the end, we're all doomed.
Doomed and hiding stuff in our butts.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to Seriously Sinister.
If you have a true petty crime story to share, please email us at seriouslysinisterpodcast@gmail.com or send us a Facebook message.
If you would like to support our show, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review.
Also, tell your friends about this podcast.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Seriously Sinister Podcast.
And on Twitter at SeriouslySinPod.
Shout out to Trevin for writing all of the original music you hear and for producing our show. Follow him and his music at Fiesta Maiden on SoundCloud, Spotify, and Facebook.
And credit to Miranda Lucas for our awesome logo. You can find her on Instagram at MirandaLucas26.
All stories are written by myself and Trevin, and all stories are based on actual, true petty crimes.
Have you ever hit the jackpot? Wow. Now I've got the pregnant air bubbles. Oh, how the turntables.